The following is the instructions on how to create your cost and profit graphs, which is your proportions individual requirement. So you are going to be talking about the cost of your menu item. You're going to create a table, equation, and graph, as well as the profit of your menu item. You will create a table, equation, and graph, and these will be included in your final business proposal. All right, so the instructions for the cost or menu item, you are going to be doing this on graph paper. So you need your own piece of graph paper. If you don't have one, please ask a friend, or there might be some underneath the telephone at the front of the classroom in the trays. Okay, so you are first going to create a table showing the number made and the cost to make it. So you should have already finished your raw food cost, which means you know how much it cost for one. So for my individual, the number of cupcakes, one cost me 75 cents. So then you complete the rest of your ratio table. So I chose to scale it up by larger numbers. These numbers you can choose, but just keep in mind you're talking about a business, so you probably do want to go up to some larger numbers. So for instance, I did 10 times my unit rate of 75 cents, so I got $7.50. Then I did 100 times the 75 cents to get $75. So in total, 220 cupcakes would cost me $165. And then this could keep going. So I'm using the variable n to represent the number of cupcakes. So then if I'm trying to figure out the cost to make it, I'm taking that 75 cents and multiplying it by n. And that's how I got each of these numbers down here. Once you have created your table for your individual recipe, now you can write your equation modeling the proportional relationship. So for mine, the cost is equal to 0.75 times n. So I was getting the cost by taking that unit rate of 75 cents and multiplying it by however many cupcakes I am making. And then after you have your equation, you are then going to create your graph. So for your graph, you need to first think about your scale. So for instance, on mine, I was counting by 20s. Yours might need to count by 10 or by 50. Whatever number you are counting, you have to be consistent. So you can't skip around. You can't go from like 5 to 25. Whatever number you are counting by must be consistent on the axis. Now you could choose a different number to count by on the y-axis, which is where your cost to make it is going. On that one, if you needed to count by $2, you could. If you needed to count by $30, you could. But please make sure that you are consistently counting. You can't jump from like 0 to 30, and then the next one's like 50, and then the next one's 75. You must scale it appropriately. Once you have created your scales, you have titled both your axes, then you can start plotting your points. And so that's where you go back to your table that you created. And so for instance, mine was 1 and then comma 0.75. That one would have been really, really, really close down here to the origin because it's close to 0, 0. So then the next one you can see was my 10 and the 7.5. So I went over for 10 cupcakes and then I estimated 7.5. So a little bit less than 10, so it fell right about there. And then you can see I did 40, 30. So you're going to graph your points from your table on there. And then you will connect them with your straight line to show it's that proportional relationship and have your equation at the top. You should also have your table of values somewhere on your individual graph. All right. Now, for your profit. So you need your menu pricing sheet. So to calculate the profit, so it means how much money we're actually making off of our items that we're selling, you take that menu price minus the cost, so the raw food cost. So for example, my menu price, it is $2.50 per cupcake. The cost was 75 cents per cupcake. So then my profit, I take $2.50 minus 75 cents. And so in total, I am profiting $1.75 per cupcake. So that's my unit rate for profit. So every time I sell one, I am making $1.75. Once you have identified your profit per item, now you're going to create your table showing your profit generated. So once again, I'm talking about my number of cupcakes and then the profit P, and so I'm talking about that in terms of dollars. So if I sold 1 cupcake, I am making $1.75. If I was selling 10, I would be making $17.50. Once again, these numbers that you choose can vary. They don't have to be the exact same as mine. You just need to make sure that you go up to a decent number because we are talking about scaling it up for a restaurant. And then at the end, I can see N is representing the number of cupcakes. Each time I am multiplying it by that $1.75 to figure out my profit. So now that I know my unit rate, number 3 here, I can write an equation modeling the proportional relationship. So mine was profit equals $1.75 times N, which was my number of cupcakes. And I could use that to figure it out for any number of cupcakes. If I sold 500, I could figure out how much money I would make off of it. Then just like your cost, you're going to be creating a profit graph. So you will need a second sheet of graph paper for this. And so you will do the same thing. You need to scale your axis appropriately. So for instance, I counted by 20s on the x-axis. On the y-axis, this time I chose to count by 40s. Please make sure whatever you are counting by is consistent. You can't just jump around. Once you have your axes scaled and you have them titled, then you start plotting your points from your table that you created. And then at the end, you need to put your equation that models your profit. Once again, these are both going to be included in your final presentation. So you need to have both your cost and profit, and you are creating a table, equation, and graph for both of them.